Yay.
I will get in so much
I'm disappointed not hardly anybody's here. Well, we got around half the class now.
Half the class. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
All right, I'm setting it. You can unmute
Hey,
yourself if you have
pick
questions.
one.
I'm setting it so that you can unmute yourself if you have a question, but we're going to get started right away. We are recording. So welcome to your Friday, and let's get this started. Look, I start real. The color doesn't come in right away. There I am. Then my color changes. That's interesting. So let's share my screen. Boom, boom. There we go. And change a little control here. Boom. All right, so it's Friday. Another Friday. And this will be 2 more Fridays after this, and that's it. That's it. I don't know what you guys are going to do over the summer, but I have big plans. And one of the plans might be offering some tutoring over the summer the same way that we're doing this right now. So I'm going to be sending out a message that if you're interested in that, and see what happens. Maybe you will be. So we got our Zoom meeting going on. If you haven't done the iStation yet for May, please do so. There is a video to help you through it if you can't get to iStation and finish it. The story just gets weirder and weirder. He meets a king, and he meets this conceited man, a very conceited man. And what I want you to think about as you read this, this might seem like a science fiction story, but it is a little bit. But really, it's about how people are, the different types of people that you encounter in your life. People that think they're so precious that everybody must treat them like they are the queen of the universe or the king of the universe. Or you have somebody that's so powerful, they think that everybody should be their servant. Or somebody that's so conceited that they have to be admired constantly. And these are all character traits. They're character traits of people. So one of the parts of this book, even though it is a fantasy, even though it is set in space, he's going from asteroid to asteroid, think about what it's really about. And what it's, to me, some of what it's really about is all the different kinds of people that you meet, both good and bad, and also all the different characteristics of your own self that are both good characteristics and maybe not so good characteristics. So be thinking of that as you read it, because it's pretty hilarious, the characters that the little prince meets and in his description to the pilot.
Mr. Bagby?
Yes?
I read that sad fact of the day. I looked at that. That was terrible. That was horrifying.
We're not there yet, so just hold on. There's no editing today, only editing 4 times a week. We'll start on a new topic with a new informational link. And like I said, what I like about the editing is that you not only get practice in finding mistakes and fixing them, but you learn something about history. So I really like that source that we use.
I like the editing because it's easy.
Okay, everybody unmute yourself. We're going to do the last row today.
Yeah.
Ready? Ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
Scar.
Scar.
Scatter.
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 Shiver.
Shiver.
Signal.
Signal.
Similar.
Similar.
Slumber.
Slumber.
Solution.
Solution.
Starve.
Star.
Stumble.
Dumbo.
Tackle.
Tackle.
Tentacle.
Tentacle.
Typical.
Typical.
I love these 3 words together. I'd love to tackle a typical tentacle. Let's tackle a typical tentacle. Unite.
Unite.
Yeah, that's called alliteration, remember?
Tackle it.
We're going to let Zoe in right now.
Tackle it.
Unite.
Unite.
Unusual.
Unusual.
Valuable.
Valuable.
Vehicle.
Vehicle.
Volunteer.
Volunteer.
All righty. Let's move on. Morning, Kyla. Morning. Is Haley here? Haley in here?
Tyler.
Yeah, Haley's here. She's under a weird name though.
Yeah, I tried to say guinea pig, but it's
All right. Today I've switched it up a little bit. Now you can use any 10 words you haven't used yet from the list above. And again, the whole week has been about practicing these punctuation marks. So you're practicing both spelling out these words, using them in meaningful ways that show that you know the meaning of them, and then by practicing punctuation marks in the process. So you're doing 3 things at once, actually 4. You're constructing sentences, you are practicing the spelling of the words, the vocabulary of the words, and different kinds of punctuation marks. So that's, again, you have your punctuation jungle there to refer to. By the way, if you can't think of a way to use some of these, here's a clue. Type using a dash in a sentence into Google, and I promise you examples will come up. Or type in using a colon in a sentence. Examples will come up. So you get the examples and you just write your own version of it. So if you're stuck, just, I use Google constantly. So I really don't mind that you use it. Really cool little fiction, nonfiction thing today. If you were a salesperson for the books you are reading presently, how would you convince people they needed these books? And when we get into our share time, if you have a book that you really love, why don't you try to sell us? Why don't you try to use persuasive techniques to get us to buy that book?
So do that.
Keep on focusing on the 6 traits of great writing. We're going to look at writing a narrative. I'm going to teach a little mini lesson here in just a minute. Keep working on your narrative story, the keys to effective writing. And again, this is for next week, but you can start on it today or the weekend. Remember, 3 different pieces before the end of this online school quarter in the school year, and in a format that I can send to your future 4th grade teacher.
Oh, I thought you meant a narrative. I thought you meant a narrative story, starting off as a narrative, then being
No. The narrative story is a separate piece. Then you're going to do a little persuasive, which can just be 1 paragraph, and then 1 informational piece where you're either explaining what something is, how it works, or how to do something. And that can be 1 paragraph. We've been working on the narrative all week. All right, so here's a little mini lesson. Let's focus on this right now. So, keys to making a narrative story strong. Keys to writing a strong narrative. So, you don't have a good story unless you have good characters, good solid characters. Who are your main characters and what makes them tick? If you want to create a character in your story, think about yourself. What motivates you? What makes you do the things that you do? What are your characteristics that determine your personality? What do you like to do? And then transfer those to a separate entity called a fictional character, somebody that you're creating. You can make them the exact opposite of you. You can make them like you or a little different from you. You can make them like somebody you know. Now, it's very important not to let that person know, especially if you are making them into a bad character. You don't want to be rude or crude. But think about people that you know, maybe TV characters or movie characters. Why are they the way they are? And then have them be that way in your story. And how do we know they're the way they are? Well, it's based upon what they say. It's based upon what the author says they're thinking. And it's based upon what they do. Those 3 things. Number 1, what comes out of their mouth in the dialogue, what the author says about them in the story, and what they actually do in the story determines the character. That's the only way we know who characters are in a story. Those 3 different things. What the author says, what they do, and what they say in dialogue. And that's how the author makes them change also. So what makes your main character, what makes them tick? And that's just an expression meaning, what's their main motivations? Setting development. If you're basing your story in the desert, why is it in the desert? If you're setting it on the ocean, why is it there? If you're setting it in the country, why? Know why you're putting your characters in the setting that you want them to be. And make sure you make it real clear why that setting is important to the story, because some stories, I think we talked about this earlier in the year, some stories are not totally dependent upon where they happen. They can happen anywhere, but other stories, they have to happen where the setting is, because it wouldn't even be possible for it to happen there. So be thinking, why is your setting important? Why is it where it's taking place crucial to your story and crucial to the plot? So why is it important? Make sure you make that clear in your story. Now, there is no story if nothing happens. I'll let you say if, sorry. Let me correct that, boom. This is not in your lesson today, by the way. I added this for this little mini lesson. If nothing happens in your story, there's no story. And it's kind of like writing a diary. You know, so you write down what happened that day, and sometimes not much happened. But when you're writing a plot, you are designing it so that things do happen. That's what makes it a story. So where do you want your story to go? How do you want it to end? How are you going to get there? There is no story if nothing happens. You have to make things happen. And one of the key things here is the things that happen have to kind of make sense. That doesn't mean they have to make sense right away, but they can't just be random things that just poof, plop out of nowhere. Otherwise, you leave your reader confused. Why did that happen? That doesn't make sense. Now, if it's something that doesn't make sense, but then it becomes clear that you've done a very good job. That's a very effective writing technique, because people love to unravel mysteries in a story. They love to find clues and to find out why something happened. If you have a story,
Yeah.
unless it's completely the person all by themselves in their own minds, have to have the characters talk. There has to be conversation. And if the characters make any sense at all, those characters have to talk based upon their personality. They have to speak based upon who they are. If you're watching a movie and a character acts one way in one scene and completely a different way in another scene, and then says something you can't imagine them saying, you're thinking, this writer of this movie is not doing a very good job with keeping their character consistent. And sometimes you see that in badly written TV shows or movies or plays. That's one of the things.
And they end up getting canceled.
What's that?
And they end up getting canceled after.
Yeah, the characters have to be true to who they are.
That's why I only watch good.
Their character that people have come to know. Because when you get to know the people in your book or in the movie or a TV show or a play, they become kind of important to you. They become, you know, like your friend mentally. And that's what makes them so magical, because sometimes they become more real than some of the friends you have. And if a writer's really good, that's what it's like. You get to know them. You can almost guess what they're going to say. One more thing about that. There are TV shows that writers develop, but here's what happens. They get into seasons 2 and 3, and the characters that play, the actors that play the characters, sometimes start writing the dialogue because they know their characters so well. They know how they're going to react. They have it down of what they're going to say. And one of the biggest arguments sometimes between the writers and the actors is the actors will say, you know, what you just had me say in that scene doesn't really make sense to my character. So then they fix it and they tweak it. So this little thing right here is kind of important in making a good story. Good, solid dialogue. Now, again, all this talk here with the knowledge of you are a third grader going into fourth grade. So I'm not expecting, you know, a story that's going to sweep the world. It might, but I'm expecting you to write on your level with your voice by following the advice that I'm giving you. And again, when you come to the ending, hopefully you know how it's going to end. Your ending should make sense. Everything that happens, everything that happens in a narrative is pushing the plot to an ending. Where else does a story go? A story doesn't just go on forever. Now, there is a movie called The Never-Ending Story, but even that movie ended. You have to have a plot that comes to an end that is satisfying and makes sense. The ending doesn't just happen, you plan it. Now, are there any of your ideas that are and you're writing your narrative. And I'll write them down right here. You can unmute yourself. Tell us some of your strategies. Go ahead. Nobody?
What I do to make stories?
Make it fun. You gotta make it fun.
Okay, Macy said make it fun. Somebody else?
You need to make it interesting and exciting.
Interesting.
You could get ideas from real life stories that you have.
They are real life stories.
Real life
Mystery.
stories.
Mystery.
No, vary your genre. Vary your genre.
You need to stick to the same genre of the book. You need to stick
Throughout
to
the entire story. You have to stick to the same genre throughout.
Yeah. Unless it's a fantasy book, then you can just
Right,
basically
it can be anything.
it'll be fine.
It could be sci-fi. It could be.
Now remember, even if you're doing fantasy or sci-fi, it's still in that world has to make some kind of sense.
Good punctuation.
Oh.
Punctual. Yeah. There you go.
Like some fantasy books.
When I'm writing
like,
my
Isla, go ahead.
when I'm writing my story, I don't really have it planned. I usually plan it out little by little, but I know the characters' personalities, so I just write down what they would say.
Got it.
I was just
Anybody
about to say
else?
something and I can't remember what I was going to say.
Okay,
Say,
so those are some good ones.
You could actually do it off of what's going on right now when you're doing it in sci-fi. Do it off of a virus that's killing a bunch of
Use
I mean, that wouldn't really.
current
be
top.
science
These are just
fiction.
ideas. You don't have to use current topics. We're going to move on now.
people.
Hey, Graham, are you hungry? I don't think
Yeah,
your
look
screen's
probably
going to be
wrong.
very tasty.
It looks ravenous.
All right, because I gave you such tough questions yesterday, today is just for fun. This video is a collection of Disney voices, and you have to guess who the character is, the Disney movie voice.
I don't even pay attention to what the names of the characters are.
So, well,
No way to be able to.
this is just for fun. Everybody mute until you have a comment to say. How many did you get right of the Disney voice? Now, these were tough. The books were Romeo and Juliet, War of the Worlds, Animal Farm, Gone with the Wind, Watership Down, and Brave New World. Raise your hand if you got any of those right.
I actually had to look it up. I have to look up all 5.
Graham, did you get some of them?
I got
I
one
had
of
to
them.
look up all 5. I didn't even.
I got
Did you have a
Romeo and
guess
Juliet.
on-
I got 4.
Maceo,
But
if I
my
were you,
daddy-
I wouldn't be telling the teacher that you're cheating.
How about-
My daddy got Romeo and Juliet.
Hey, did any of you get the really hard one?
Romer Oslo?
No, the reservoir, the water draining.
No.
No.
Wait,
Did anybody get
the
it?
one with all the cups?
The
The one with all the cups?
No, pipes.
pipe.
Oh, no.
Change drain a reservoir in 21 hours and 36 minutes.
Anybody get that? Anybody get close to 21 hours?
No, I didn't even do it.
Oh.
I just remembered that because I looked it up yesterday.
Oh.
You look up everything.
Did anybody try this?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I just realized it was too hard. I just
All
read
right.
See,
it. Okay.
Maceo over here. Hey, teacher, I cheated on your stuff and I didn't do it.
No, he said we had an option to not do
All
that.
right, we're going to have to go back into mute mode. Please quiet down so we can get through this.
Come on,
today
Macy.
is a little video on the Fertile Crescent, what made the Fertile Crescent so important. Of course, that has to do with Egypt and Mesopotamia. I posted Mr. Nicky's Mesopotamia by the Euphrates River for you to
That's not even
enjoy.
what it sounds
And
like.
again, please be working on this because next Thursday, Friday, and into next week, that will be what Zoom is all about, is you guys giving us a tour of someplace on Earth. So
I'm
really
doing
looking forward to that.
Egypt. I'm doing 3 places in Egypt, so that's gonna take me a longer time.
Please mute yourself.
No.
Please mute yourself. Thank you. Today is in geography. Continue practicing the games, but the 10 most uninhabitable places on Earth. Places where nobody lives, and they tell you why no one can live there. They are very uninhabitable. As habitable as most of the Earth is, a wonderful place
Yeah,
for
some of it is.
all kinds. These 10 places, very, very rough. So which one do you think is the most uninhabitable? Would you like to visit it? People love to visit these places too. They just go and leave, but they don't stay there. But they like to say, I was at a very, very dangerous place. Now, why did I give you, Lena Berg from The Other Homer asked me, why did you give us a Roblox quiz? Well, why do you think? For fun. It's just for fun. The
It's not
Roblox
even
quiz
fun.
today is just for fun.
When you
I know it's very popular. You guys love the
It's
quiz.
not
do
even
it.
true. Most of it's not even true.
I love Roblox.
Okay, here
I
you go.
have to do-
Family fun. Just like yesterday, you ask about the good memory.
That's a quiz I'm not taking.
Today,
You have to, you know.
Sure, I'll just fail.
I'm waiting. Thank you. Ask your parents or guardians, someone, what their worst memory was, their meanest teacher. And it's true, my absolute meanest teacher of all time just happens to be when I was in your grade, Mrs. Martin. She was frightening. She had those glasses that went up like this into big cat eyes.
Oh, I
And her
hate
hair was like piled up on top of her head, and her eyebrows were always up, and her mouth was always like this.
You know,
Looked at her. When you looked at her, you thought she'd turn to sauerkraut because she looked at you with with just meanness. It was never like good morning. It was more like, And if you weren't paying attention, she would take a ruler, and as she was walking by, she'd whack you on the head, pop, oop, and then you'd have to pay attention again because you just got whacked. So that was my memory. Mrs. Martin, the meanest teacher. In fact, the movie Men in Black showed a bunch of faces of people that were supposed to be aliens, and one of them was a teacher. And the character said, hey, I knew she would. And that looked exactly like Mrs. Martin in my 3rd grade. I'm like, wow, maybe she was an alien. Not really, but
Here's more Men in Black characters.
he was mean. So ask him, the meanest teacher. Now, sometimes mean teachers can be your really best teacher because, they
They
hold,
kept you on track.
they hold you to
I know.
a high.
I know my mom's meanest teacher.
I know my mom.
Forgot how to spell insect, and she got pulled by the ear. And a mark was left on your ear.
Wait, what? Say that again, Graham.
But I think she also pulled her by the ear or something.
Yep.
Graham, could you say that again?
I know.
All right, so at this time,
Sure.
I'm going to stop this share. I'm
Whoa.
going to mute all again.
Across the room.
Now, at this point, you can either share your narrative, you can share your sales idea for the books that you're reading because you love the books so much. But you can now share something that you're working on with the class. So unmute yourself and talk away. Zoe, you have something?
Talk about what?
Milo, do you have something?
Can I do my sales idea?
Oh, I finished my book. I have 3 more chapters of it.
Okay, how would
I'll
you
read
sell
both.
how would you tell us that we need to buy this book? Why should we read this book?
Because it's interesting. It's about a bunch of fish who go on a journey across Australia to get back to an ocean because of tsunami. And they do a bunch of cool stuff along the way, and there's a fairy that grants them 3 wishes. And that's how they get back.
There's a fairy that grants 3 wishes. It's a bunch of fish
Yeah, that was in the first couple chapters.
that got what's it called?
But
What's the name of it?
The Incredible Water Journey.
The Incredible-
I like that title. I do like that title.
That's pretty
Okay, so-
straightforward. Okay, so thank you, Milo. Who else has something to share? All right, Maceo.
Yay! I have a book. I have a book I read constantly. I read Diary of a Wimpy Kid. I read Diary of a Wimpy Kid a lot. I have 3 Diary of One Piggy's books. One of them isn't even really directed towards Greg Heffley. It's directed towards his friend Rowley's. So that's the one that's towards Rowley's.
Okay, so if you run into somebody that has never read any of these books, what would be your number one reason that you would tell them that they need to read these?
Because it may be fiction, but it's realistic fiction. It's based off of characters that could be real right now, that could be around right now. They're struggling with things in life, and Greg struggles with things in life, and he's got his brother Roderick, who's like in maybe high school right now or college. So he's really annoying to him. And then he has a little brother Manny, who is straight up weird.
All right, Macia, thank you. Somebody else. I need to hear your narratives. You guys are going to be sharing these whether you want to or not next week. Somebody else that has a book to share, a narrative to share, poetry, a good tip.
A tip?
We've got, Chris, do you have something? Chris, do you have something? I guess not.
Mr. Bagby, can I share, please?
Yes, please do so.
Give me 1 second. Okay, now I have to move that. And then share my screen. You disabled attendee screen share. Can you undisable it?
Why does Haley's name say Haley Henny Pig?
I tried to make a guinea pig, but I corrected it to Henny.
Okay, I guess I'll just read it instead of screen sharing.
Okay, go ahead.
So I'm gonna read it from the start. Hello, my name is Sarah Grace, daughter of Hecate, goddess of magic, and I'm going to tell you my story. Sarah, it's time to go to the magic show, called my dad. Okay, I'm coming downstairs. Okay, I'm coming downstairs. I came downstairs and ran out the door, then yelled, I'm taking my bike there. My dad tried to argue, but there was no point. When I got to the magic show, I was 2 hours early to get a good seat. There were barely any left. I managed to find a second row seat. I saw my dad and waved. I'd saved him a seat. He sat down and the show started. They started with milk in a hat. I'm not going to name all the tricks, but they ended with walking on water. After the show, I told my dad I want to have a career as a magician.
All right. Walking on water. Wow. Certain insects can walk on water. In fact, certain animals can too.
Isn't there an insect called like the Jesus bug or something?
Well,
It can walk on water.
The thing about water is it has what's called surface tension, which means if you were to able to see a water molecule totally up close, like on the molecular level, you would see their electrons reaching out. They reach out for other water molecules. And you've probably noticed this whenever a little stream of water gets close to another stream of water, they connect like it's magnetism. You ever seen that? They go together. So when there's no more water and they're reaching up on the surface, they create a tension, which means that you can, if you're light enough or if your feet are padded and wide enough, you can actually walk and pad on the water. The other way to prove that water has surface tension is to take an eyedropper and see how many drops of water you can put on a penny. Some people think you can just put 1. You can actually put on like 22 drops of water on a penny. 22. 22 drops of water will stay on that penny. It's a really cool experiment. Try it. It's called surface tension. Who else would like to share?
Can I share?
Yep. Who's can I share?
Keon.
Go ahead, Keon. You got video?
No. Just my name. Sorry. Hi, my name is Kate. Hi, my name is Kate, so I'm a magician and I can do tricks. I kind of have trouble breathing sometimes, but my shows have been great, except for one. Let me tell you all about it. So I woke up in the morning at home. I get ready to go to magician school. I got all the supplies I need to go there. My mom comes, blonde hair, tall, about 5'11", and knows how to make a really good meal for breakfast. Okay, my breakfast, waffles, smiley face on it, Pop-Tart, brown sugar, and yellow scrambled eggs. My mom calls me, honey, you're going to be late for the bus. I got all my things and ran to the bus. So I am on my bus. If you think it's a normal bus, then you're wrong. My bus is all purple, some black, a guy pulling a rabbit out of a hat, and the bunny dropping out and taking out with red eyes. It's supposed to be inspirational, but I think it's creepy. So I sit with my friend Justin and Brianna. Justin is 4'10", really cool hair, and hair is blonde. And I have my friend Brianna, about 4'8", long hair, and it's blonde too.
Keon, I am really into this story. I hope you work on it over the weekend. It sounds very fascinating. I love that magic bus. That's really
How about a magic school bus?
Yeah, there is a book called The Magic School Bus. There was an old song in the 60s called The Magic Bus by a group called The Who. Can I ride your magic bus? Yeah, it's a rocker. Anybody else have something to share?
No.
Who all do we have? We got Rohan here, Keon, Josiah, Kyla, Haley, Graham, Zoe, Eli, Krish, Milo, Macia, one.
I have a tip.
Mr. Bagby.
Who else missing? Cheyenne was here, but she's not. Cheyenne is missing. Jeffrey's missing. Who else?
Okay, there's one. Okay, so there's Haley, there's Kyla, there's Eli, there's Zach.
Yeah, Zach is missing.
Check in the participants. That's where you can see everybody.
No, I know.
Yeah.
That's what I'm reading out loud. I'm trying to figure out who's not here. I can see the participants.
Yeah, so we don't have.
Let's see. Haley is here. Mila's here. Rohan, Krish. Zach is not. Graham is here. Kyla's here. Keon is here. Josiah's here. Zoe's here. Jeffrey's not. Eli is here. And Macy here. Cheyenne's not. Okay, I got it. Thank you. Anybody else want to share before we do the countdown?
Here.
Because I got to get ready for the next class.
I want to share.
Quickly.
That's here.
The entirety of New Bubbleton's population got swept on the land. They were 3 miles away from the ocean. Everyone was hopeless, but Albert and Chuck found a magic fairy who gave them 3 wishes. Albert and Chuck were super excited, but soon Chuck got an idea. Fairy, said Chuck, I wish for legs and arms for all the fish so we can walk home. Great idea, Chuck, said Albert. Zongo not as glad as this, said the fairy. Soon, every single creature from New Bubbleton had arms and legs and arms. Okay, that's the next 2 chapters. I have chapter 5 ready. It's just don't want to waste
Right.
time.
Well, we're down to less than a minute, and this thing turns off no matter what. So let's do a countdown. 10, 9, 8,
I have 37 more minutes.
6, 5,
Bye.
4.
Miss you.
Goodbye, everybody.
Eli, bye.
Weekend.
Bye.